At Progressive Sports Medicine, we include VO2 max testing as part of our longevity program. So what actually is VO2 max? VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. In simple terms, it tells us how well your heart, your lungs, and your blood and your muscles are all working together. It's influenced by things like your heart size, your blood flow, your mitochondria, and also your genetics. It's a key performance metric for endurance athletes, but just as important, and this is the big point, it's one of the strongest predictors of overall health and longevity. And it's a score that we can compare across ages and genders. So what does this actually mean? A really good way of thinking about VO2 max is like the engine of a car. A bigger engine gives you more power and more capacity in the same way that a higher VO2 max gives your body a greater capacity to perform exercise and day-to-day activities. But the engine isn't the only part of the story. If a car has a powerful engine, but terrible tires, bad suspension, or no fuel, it still won't perform well. It's the same for the body. If someone has a high VO2 max, but poor muscle strength, poor sleep, or poor fuel, and poor nutrition, they won't be able to use that engine to its optimal capacity. For example, let's say someone has a VO2 max score of 55 milliliters per kilogram per minute. That's excellent. It would put them around the 90th percentile for their age and gender. But if they have low muscle mass, they're not fueling properly, and they're not recovering well, it's like having a V8 engine in a poorly maintained car. The engine is amazing, but the rest of the system is holding them back. Now, if that same person improves their strength, cleans up their nutrition, and fuels properly around their training, including appropriate carbohydrates and proteins, they can actually use that engine to its full potential. And that's really what VO2 max represents. It's your body's maximum capacity when everything is working together. From a longevity perspective, this is where it gets really important. A higher VO2 max is linked to more years of independent living. We know VO2 max naturally declines as we age, but the tasks that we need to do, like climbing stairs, carrying the groceries, getting up from the floor, these things don't change and they don't get easier. Research suggests that if your VO2 max drops below 15 to 20 milliliters per kilogram per minute, everyday tasks start to become much harder. The higher your VO2 max is in your 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, the more aerobic reserve you have. Essentially, you're banking your aerobic fitness. And the really good news is that VO2 max is very trainable. With the right exercise program, we can improve it. Low intensity aerobic exercise training helps to build your aerobic base, and then high intensity interval training helps to push your maximum capacity higher and higher, therefore improving your body composition and your ultimate performance. At Progressive Sports Medicine, we start by measuring your baseline VO2 max. From there, our exercise physiologists create an evidence-based, realistic and sustainable training plan that's tailored specifically to you. Our goal is to shift your aerobic fitness upward so that age-related decline has less impact on your health and your quality of life. There's also really strong evidence behind this. So a major study in 2018 looked at their VO2 max score, and then they looked at their hazard ratio, or the risk of all-cause mortality. What they found is that when they compared a group from the low quartile to the elite quartile, that they were 4 to 5 times more likely of dying from any or all-cause mortality. The difference is very similar to those who are smokers or not smokers. And the key point is that with the right training, nutrition and lifestyle habits, you can improve your health and lower your long-term risk. So how do we test VO2 max? A VO2 max test is done on a bike or a treadmill. The intensity gradually increases every minute, with the goal being to reach your maximal volitional fatigue while we measure oxygen use and carbon dioxide output, while we also track your heart rate. On a bike, we might start at around 50 watts and increase by 20 to 30 watts every minute. And as your fitness improves over time, your heart rate at the same workload should essentially be lower on a repeat test, which tells us that your cardiovascular system has adapted really well to the training plan. On a treadmill, you wear a mask connected to a metabolic cart, which measures oxygen that you are consuming and the carbon dioxide that you breathe out. At the same time, we're monitoring your heart rate as exercise intensity increases. By analysing this data, we can identify key physiological thresholds, including the respiratory compensation point, aerobic threshold 1 and aerobic threshold 2. What we're looking at is the transition from aerobic to anaerobic metabolism, where you shift from easy training to hard training. We also look at blood lactate. As exercise intensity increases, lactate rises, and we measure that in the blood. and this helps us determine the most effective training zones to optimize your training program. Zone 2 training is a steady state intensity where lactate stays relatively stable. This improves fat burning, insulin sensitivity, and mitochondrial density, and basically will help you build a stronger aerobic engine. Then we'll layer high intensity interval training to specifically improve your VO2 max, and the exact balance of these will depend really on your goals and your current fitness level. After your test, we'll take you through and walk you through everything in detail and explain your heart rate training zones and what they mean and how long you should spend in each one, and then we'll give you a really personalized plan. At PSM, we combine the gold standard testing with expert coaching, and our aim is simply to help you perform better, protect your health, and build fitness that supports you for decades to come. By analysing this data, we can identify key aerobic thresholds, including the respiratory compensation point and your aerobic threshold 1 or lactate threshold. We'll also look at blood lactate. As exercise intensity increases, lactate will rise, and this can help determine effective training zones for you. Here we have normative VO2 max scores, which were represented in the previous slide, looking at the different sections of low, below average, above average, high, and elite. We can use those to compare and look at risk factors. So Zone 2 training is the zone or area at which you can sustain exercise for an extended period of time. The reason we do lots of training in Zone 2 is to improve mitochondrial efficiency, mitochondrial density, improve insulin sensitivity, and fat burning. We'll then look at how we can apply a high intensity interval training to specifically target your VO2 max, and that's looking at this section here. So the area at which your body is producing energy or requiring energy fast, so it's using carbohydrates as metabolism, which is a faster process, and that's where you'll see greater adaptations and changes to your VO2 max at the higher intensities of exercise. So we'll be able to walk through that with you and discuss your training zones and your heart rate power training zones or pace zones based on a treadmill or a bike test. And we'll combine this all together to provide an expert opinion with gold standard testing to help you perform better, protect your health, and build an overall fitness that supports you for decades to come.
This content is provided for general educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, does not replace consultation with a patient's own doctor, and should not be used to make individual health decisions. Nothing in this presentation is intended to bypass or replace the role of general practitioners or established screening programs. No patient-doctor relationship is created by viewing this content. If a patient has symptoms or concerns or abnormal results, they should seek prompt assessment from their GP or treating specialist.